Like, share and subscribe. Defining identity theft. Suppose you get robbed as you walk down the street trying to get to your house. Suddenly out of nowhere a person runs right to you, knocks you over and makes off with your wallet or purse. And before you really register in your brain what has happened, they're gone. Now what do? It's like a bad movie scene, and it seems as if this type of crime will get worse and worse. Why that, maybe you ask? With this new technological age, thieves don't have to rob a person face to face nor rob a bank and other establishments. Why? Getting the person's information in obtaining employment, credit and bank accounts and other ways to get money or credit. As this activity called identity theft is so common that it has already affected millions of victims in the United States and Canada. Over the past few years, news stories about it have been reported. These stories make people aware of the crime. Also, campaigns and laws have been passed to build up the public's awareness as well as to combat the growing problem. In September 2003, the Federal Trade Commission said that people who become victims of identity theft spend an average of $1,400 and close to 200 hours just cleaning up the damage to the personal and financial character. The only catch is once this crime becomes more barefaced, the identity theft victim may spend more money and time just to clean up the issue. In terms of frustration, it's going to cost more than anyone thinks or even knows. Should you be one of those unlucky ones that don't have the kind of money it would take to fix your credit record, you know what being a casualty of identity theft is all about. You know how you can become a victim, and you know there are steps to fight against this terrible epidemic. How does identity theft work? It's a crime which a person or group of persons use an individual's personal information. This means telephone number, name, phone card, credit card, and social security number. It's done without the person's knowledge for criminal acts. Acts typically range from financial fraud or purchasing consumer goods by using their credit. This will leave the person to pay the bill unless they can prove it was not them that got the credit. Typically, until they look on their credit report or try to get loans, they will not know anything is wrong. Although a serious crime, thieves, once they have the information, will commit at least 8 different crimes in the victim's name. Make purchases or order goods without the intention to pay, apply for credit, open bank accounts, apply for loans, apply for government benefits, obtain cable or utility services using the another person's victim name, forge checks or bank drafts, use victims' accounts to obtain money through wire transfers using the victim's accounts, and other similar acts of fraud. Identity theft doesn't just apply toward individuals but also businesses. This is especially true for those of medium and limited businesses. It happens when a person applies for goods under a business name. People need to be active in not becoming an identity theft victim and make sure that all private documents and data are protected and not given into the wrong hands. Only through these steps can we stop ourselves from being a victim. It's important people stop the thieves before they strike. Identity theft books are a useful guide to help prevent identity theft. There are many different reasons as to why you should get yourself identity theft books, and the most obvious is so that you can learn about identity theft in general and so that you can protect yourself from being an identity theft victim as much as you possibly can. There are so many different identity theft books out there, and you want to make sure that you get as many as you can so that you can be as informed as you possibly can. More about identity theft books. You can find identity theft books anywhere from the local bookstore to your local library. One of the best places of all that you can go to find identity theft books is on the internet, because here you'll get the best selection, and due to the speed and efficiency of the internet, you're able to find everything you need quickly and easily. Remember that by buying these sorts of books, you'll not only be able to learn about what identity theft is, but as well you're going to be able to learn about the steps and precautions that you can take in order to make yourself as guarded against this type of theft as you possibly can. Identity theft is in fact one of the most common crimes out there today, and this is primarily due to the fact of how technologically advanced a world we live in today. There's no definitive way that you can keep yourself from becoming a victim of this type of crime. However, prevention is the best method for everything, especially something like this, and so thus you're going to want to take all of the steps that you possibly can in order to make sure that you get the best results possible, meaning that you end up being as guarded against this as you can be. You're going to want to do things such as get rid of all your credit cards if you can, or at least refrain from using them over the internet on a regular basis, because this is one of the most common ways that identity thieves use to steal a person's identity. As well, you're going to want to make sure that you only carry around the identification with you that you need to, so that if you do ever end up losing your wallet while you're out, for instance, that you only lose a few things. How does identity theft happen? Understanding identity theft protection is something that you should do. When you find something on your credit report or on your credit card statement, you may think to yourself, how did that happen? But what you need to know is what to do to make sure that it doesn't happen. When you take the time to do this, you'll find yourself in a better understanding of what could happen to you. Then you can make sure that you don't see anything shocking on your reports down the road. Identity theft happens in a number of ways. You don't have to actually hand out your information to anyone in order to have this happen to you. In fact, most people are not in this situation. Those that have had this happen to them generally have had it done without their actual input. For example, they may be paying for a meal at a restaurant. They trustingly hand over their credit card to the server to pay for their meal. Then they go on their merry way. Yet, the problem here is that the waitress may have had the time to go to the workstation, jotted down your information on your credit card, and then been able to use this information to make charges to your credit card. Or perhaps it was someone else that you handed your credit card information to. If you go in to talk to someone about having a home improvement project done and provide them with your address and then pay for an estimate, they instantly have everything that they need to use your credit card. Now, generally, it's not going to be the person that you hand your card over to, but perhaps it could be someone that is less than trustworthy working for them. Many people think that credit card identity theft only happens on the web. The fact of the matter is, though, that you don't have to have this happen to you in this way. You face the same risk of identity theft on the web as you do in that restaurant. Trust is something that almost always plays a role, though. In any case, learning how to protect yourself from these cases is your ultimate goal. Be sure to know when to spot someone that could potentially have the opportunity to gather your information, such as in these examples. All the different methods of identity theft. Although there are many different methods that one can utilize to rip someone off in an identity theft type scam, there are really only two basic types of actual identity theft. The first of these is generally the easiest and most basic way for thieves to achieve their objective. An example of account takeover is when a thief gets hold of your actual physical credit card, or perhaps just the card number and expiry date, using it to purchase services or products. This works out extremely well for the thief, as the credit card owner doesn't usually notice the additional purchases until they either receive their monthly statement in the mail or have attempted to use the card and found that it has reached the maximum limit allowed. The second type of identity theft is called application fraud, or what's otherwise known as true name fraud. In order for a thief to be successful at application fraud, they must have access to a good deal of your personal information, such as your social security number, SSN, full name, address, place of work, salary, driver's license number, date of birth, etc. Of course, not all of these pieces of information would be necessary for a thief to get away with application fraud, but certainly a combination of some of the above would be required. It can affect anyone. Like many, you may assume that identity theft only happens to those people who might be a bit more careless when it comes to safeguarding personal information. Or perhaps you're of the mindset that because you don't really have a lot of money in your personal account, or don't have credit cards with large spending limits, that identity theft thieves wouldn't necessarily target someone like yourself. Well, make no mistake about it, identity theft can happen to anyone, including you. Basically, if you've an identity, and we hope that you do, then you're susceptible. Are you safe from identity theft? Are you really safe from identity theft? Each day people are being attacked. So how would you feel if you got arrested for a crime you didn't commit? The phone rings and creditors are harassing you, saying you owe X amount of dollars despite the fact you don't have a credit card, or you haven't used it in that month. What will you say to them? Perhaps when you become a victim, you'll have the answers to these questions. But until then, people say that identity theft is the perfect crime. Everyone who is anyone can be a victim, including children. The best way to prevent yourself from being the prey is learn about the crime. There are millions affected every year. Once a thief decides to take your place in your life, it's almost impossible to get that life back. So, you've not been a victim of ID theft, then don't take any risk that can harm those chances. ID theft is the type of crime that one person pretends to be another in sake of getting information, money, or any other reasons. This is typically done for financial reasons and/or criminal activity. Information that the thieves look to get are the potential victim's complete name, the date of birth, and any array of related data such as social security number, passport, driver's license number, and credit card number. Once the thief has any part of the information, he or she can use it to take over the victim's accounts. He or she can apply for loans and even purchase items and services. The thief can also apply for medical benefits, education assistance, and other personal finances. Just by creating or forging birth certificates or immigration documents, all this can be gotten when presented to the right agency who provides this type of help. For those who are involved in this kind of crime either want to mislead police on who's committing the fraud or hide from police while they're pursuing the assailant. Some like to use the person's name to do larger crimes and do human trafficking and terrorism acts. According to the Federal Trade Commission (FTC), 29% of complaints come from individuals from people aged 18 to 29, 25% for 30-39 individual ages, 21% in from individuals in their 40s, 13% from the individuals in 50s. The remaining 10% come from those ages 60 and older. Thieves target those who have an average income and those with good credit. Don't forget that even children can be victims of identity theft, especially from their relatives, their parents mainly. Even businesses, corporations, and small enterprises can be struck by identity theft by thieves, disguising themselves as the top executives of the company. They withdraw large sums of money which can topple business relations and its reputation. This day and age, ID theft can be committed by gaining access to information systems and duplicating, although not the original important document. Afterwards, they can open new credit accounts and charging older ones. Technological advances have made it possible for hackers to break into public databases and cracking important government sites. There are 7 ways to guard yourself from these thieves, though not altogether foolproof. Make sure to never provide your social security number unless it's required. Shred important documents. Checks should only have your name and address. Carry only necessary documents needed for the day. Review credit reports regularly. Look for unauthorized accounts. Never give out private data on the phone. Why is identity theft protection so important? If you're a user of credit cards, then you probably know why identity theft protection is important. In short, if you allow someone else to get your credit information, they can easily take that information and build a large pile of credit card debt that will affect you for a long time. There's no easy way out of this problem either. Depending on the seriousness of the amount of debt that is piled up against you, you could be spending countless days trying to work through it all. In the end, if you don't have the right identity theft protection in place, you may actually find yourself in a lot of trouble. If you were to become a victim of identity theft in which someone else took your personal information and used it to gain access to credit, it's very hard to prove that this really was not you that did it. You'll need to go through a long list of things, including talking to your lenders, the lenders that have files against you that you may not actually have had, and a wide range of other things. You may end up having to pay an attorney to get the whole thing figured out too. It simply is not worth all this trouble when you can just use tools to help you to safeguard against this. Let's say that someone had the opportunity to use your credit card. Let's just say that they got it from your wallet and you've had no idea. They can easily go from place to place in a matter of minutes, charge up a lot of debt at various stores and other locations, and walk away with all of that merchandise. It may take them just a few hours to do this. In the meantime, you've no idea that you don't even have your credit card. If this happens, your identity theft protection on your credit card should kick in for you. In some cases, the better credit lenders, if they see a lot of spending on your credit card at once, they may put a hold on it in order to contact you before allowing additional charges. But let's say that they do clear it all up for you. This is still not the end to your problems. More than likely, you're still going to have problems. Your credit card may put a limit on the amount of transactions on your account to safeguard themselves from this happening again. This means that you're limited for something that someone else did to you. Having identity theft protection and using it's very important to your well-being in many respects. What's identity theft protection? Identity theft is a very troublesome occurrence for those that happen to have to deal with it. The sad note here is, though, that many times you'll not know what hit you when it does happen. While protection from identity theft is the most important thing for you to know, you also need to understand what this term means and just how it can happen to you. Unfortunately, many individuals, 1,000s each year, will experience some form of identity theft. Protection from identity theft starts by understanding just what it's. This term is used loosely to represent several things. First, there are those instances where an individual will literally pose as you. This is the most intense type of identity theft and also the hardest to pull off. Yet it's also one of the least common types out there. The most common type of identity theft is that of those individuals that will use your personal information to gain something for themselves, such as a credit card, or even worse, they will use the credit cards that you've opened for their needs. Identity theft protection is mostly about being aware, taking the time to really know what you're doing when you hand out your information. It's also important to be able to spot when something is happening to you. Some of those that are victims of identity theft will not know about it until it's too late to do anything about it. Yet it's easy for you to catch something long before it gets to that serious of an issue. For example, if someone got a hold of your credit card information, you may think it would take you a month or more to know about it. Yet if you manage your finances online, you can easily check out your credit card statement with most banks online without much hassle. If you do this just once a week, you can help to protect yourself. There are many forms of identity theft, and sometimes there's not much that you can do to protect yourself from it. Yet being a smart consumer is the first step. You should always know what should be on your credit cards, and you should know what's on your credit report. If you don't know this, you're likely going to have to unwrap quite a tangled mess later on. Being a smart consumer is necessary here. ID theft scams. It can be said a person should be proud to be the only person born with their identity. You're unique, given a name by your proud parents. You work hard for the monies in your account. You should expect plenty of benefits from your SS when you reach retirement age. Yet some people feel it necessary to steal your hard-worked earnings by taking on your identity. How would you feel by this? What would your life be like then? No doubt all these bring a fear that someone will damage your reputation, your life, and your security. Many people don't want to grow old without some kind of security, but everyone must work together to keep identity thieves from getting what they want. These thieves don't deserve a cent for their hacker time. People are starting to fight back. They're beginning to demand the government to secure their identities more carefully. If identity theft wasn't so prevalent, then there would be no reason for this. Identity theft is a grave miscarriage of justice for people affected because the personal information and property were compromised. It's only right that they seek justice to combat this growing epidemic. Every precaution should be taken to protect people's identity. Once this is done, thieves can do little to steal it from you. This can make people take a little comfort that no one can be them. No doubt if the person behind the first attack of identity theft were ever found, people would want to seek justice behind their stealing abilities. Many people would want that person to suffer, as they have suffered. From one person to a group of people to many others, identity theft and all the fraud that comes with it has no doubt fanned out. The FBI, or rather the Federal Bureau of Investigations, have found it harder than easier to get rid of this problem. Since the thieves have been able to stay one step ahead of the authorities, it makes it harder for the FBI agents to track them down. Not only that, but the fraud is growing rapidly on the internet. Should you be looking to buy a high-priced item on a website, be sure to investigate it to see if it's legit or not. Some of his fraudulent websites will offer the products like AirPods or high-end cell phones at a drastic reduced cost or close to free. When a person is trying to scam someone, they advise people not to pay for anything until they receive the product. However, what will happen is they will take the name of the person buying and take it from the account of another to purchase the prize from the legit site. Basically, once the person pays for the item, the money is transferred to the thief. The scammer can still present a copy of the receipt to the buyer, although the money is coming from another account number. Email fraud is also running rampant. What is this type of fraud? When an email is sent to you from a scammer, they oftentimes place a link. The email would seem as if it's coming from a place of business that you contend with on a regular basis. The scammer will ask for all kinds of information, including social security number, full name, mother's maiden name, and your date of birth. Are you starting to understand how this type of fraud works? So before you fall victim, take precautions early to avoid being a prey to those thieves. Put an end to criminal identity theft. If you're mistakenly identified as somebody else, it can get you into a lot of trouble if that person were a criminal, right? Imagine the vice versa is true for a criminal. If he takes on your identity, life is much easier for him. No harm done. Not until he commits a crime again, and then you are the one who will be called in for questioning. How it's done. The criminal of modern day has made use of technology to get personal information in a very subtle way. A hacker, if he has access to your mail, it can probably get your bank information and your social security number from there. Using these, he or she could start a new bank account under your name, get a credit card under your name, and even make a driver's license in your name. Imagine now how vulnerable we all are to these hackers. The bad guy uses all your personal information to establish a new and verified identity of his, yours. Using this identity, he may commit crimes like online harassment to other people, obscene phone calls from a number listed to you, and sometimes even robbery and murder. Finally, the police end up on the wrong trail and come knocking at the wrong door. Needless to say, the judicial system is efficient enough not to punish the wrong man, but the guilty gets away scot-free, and by this time he is probably using a different identity to cover his tracks. Imagine a guy with a fake driver's license in your name being stopped for something like over speeding. He escapes the fine by leaving yours driving license number with the police. He doesn't show up at court and the summons is sent to your doorstep. And you're left wondering what you did. Criminal identity theft is exactly what these examples tell you. It is the theft of your identity for criminal usage. It's definitely a personal crime and directly affects the person whose identity is being used. Sooner or later, he or she will be in trouble for something they never did. If you feel that your identity may be under threat of theft, or if you're suspicious of it having happened, here are a few ideas for you. A. The first thing you should think of doing is the obvious. Call the cops and tell them why you think your identity is being used by an imposter. B. You need to fill out a convincing report about the impersonation incident. Think clearly and objectively while filling out the report. It's what will help the officials track down the guilty. C. Get a lawyer if the matter turns serious or if you're unsure of the state laws. What are the effects of identity theft on an organization? Imagine the damage to an organization if identity thieves stole their information like individuals. It's beyond comprehension and likely to be more damaging reputation-wise. No doubt thieves love to steal people's hard-earned cash. To them it's like they dug a hole and struck oil. Since the benefits seem to outweigh the risks, they continue to do it more and more. With the internet's popularity, computer databases, this has been the dessert that identity thieves have been waiting for. This is the way many thieves obtain their information about their victims. Both the social and economic effects of this crime should not be ignored. If those who don't have much and are not known throughout the world can be scammed and victimized, then big organizations have more to lose if they get preyed on. While there's no perfect outcome, each organization that wants to stay afloat should take precautions against identity theft. When identity theft in organizations occur, it's because of two specific reasons: negligence and lenient standards. How does an organization fail in negligence? It can be as simple as not checking the background of people they're selling their information to. Some companies are not aware that this is how many identity thieves get the information they need. When companies carry around their information on portable devices or gadgets such as laptops or notebooks, this is just asking for trouble. It's a convenient way for companies to keep up with the data they need. However, company personnel need to keep up with these devices at all times. Oddly enough, owners do not protect or encrypt any of the information they have stored. Not doing this results in the identity thieves' access to personal and organization-related data. It has been reported that bigger organizations have lost data for their company or about their customers. There are two reasons for this. First, the company may not have the resources to adequately store big files. Second, they have no ways of knowing what employees could be doing and what their employees have access to. Thieves use state-of-the-art tactics. Many company attacks have been done as a result of a weakness in computer hardware or software. This is especially true for problems that occur in operating systems, firewalls, web browsers, or even internal processing software. All this to gain access to data that would otherwise be private. How can these be fought off? Organizations can use up-to-date security software updates when a system is left vulnerable. Working with a known weakness, identity thieves jump on this opportunity. Senior security management need to handle fast and efficiently a company's weaknesses to stave off any threat of identity theft. Each company needs to know where their customer data is going. This is called data flow mapping. This helps company managers to track the information and see who has access to this data. Proof needs to be collected when an incident occurs. It's important that the company gathers the evidence, or else not doing so can make it severely impossible to track criminals. Tracking it could also give the organization civil compensation. Hiring a person who is qualified to be a forensic technology scientist is a smart plan for the organization. Organizations and their employees should never take for granted that because they're too large that they will not be affected. This is exactly the opposite. Like individuals, companies should protect themselves as much as possible, if not more. How to prevent identity theft? Let's check in to see how you're doing before we go any further. That was a lot of information to absorb, and for someone who's new to the whole world of identity theft, it was likely very overwhelming. You're doing really well though, and I'm proud of you. You made it through the most difficult part of this book. You learned all about the scariness of ID theft and the many forms it can take, and look, you're still here. Now it's time for your reward. The first portion of this book may have caused you to feel helpless, frightened, or without power against the enormity of the problem. Now, however, it's time for you to learn that there is something you can do about it. Knowledge is power, and here is where you become empowered. Protecting your mail. Remember how we talked about thieves that would steal your mail from the garbage and even from your own mailbox? Well, don't let them. Make sure that every single piece of mail with any kind of identifying information on it's shredded before you throw it away. Simply tearing it into a few pieces is not adequate protection. This only provides the thief with a fairly basic jigsaw puzzle to your most valued information. Invest in a small shredder for your home. These are very inexpensive, especially when you consider that the minimal cost of the item could save you $100s or $1,000s in the long run, not to mention a huge headache. If you can't purchase one yourself, then take your mail to work with you and use the shredder in your office. A locked mailbox will not completely guarantee your protection from identity thieves, but it certainly may help in dissuading their attempts to steal your mail. Look into purchasing a mailbox that has a slot in the top for the mail to be slid into, but where you need a key to actually remove it. This way, if your mailbox is broken into, you'll at least know it right away and will perhaps be able to notify creditors, banks, and other companies before any real damage is done. Identity theft protection. What to do now? Identity theft protection is something that you need to know and take care of every single day. Each day you make choices about your identity, mainly with the use of your credit card. If you're one of the people that realize just how easy it's for someone to get a hold of your information, then you know that it's up to you to make sure that they don't get the information that's going to ruin your credit score and put your life at a full stop. Here is what you need to do now in order to make sure that you've the highest level of protection possible. Make sure that you've identity theft protection on your credit cards. To know this, call and talk to your credit card lenders. Some may offer a better protection policy for a different type of credit card. When you apply for a new card, always ensure that you get this protection on it. Get a copy of your credit report and ensure that everything on it's correct. This should include your address and your account information. Take a look at who is inquiring about your credit as well. Make sure that you clear up any discrepancies that are listed there as well. Use spyware on your computer. If you connect to the internet with your PC, then you need to have updated spyware on your computer. This will help to monitor anyone that tries to apply a program that could be used to track what you're doing online, as well as record information that you enter there and then report it back to a thief. Make sure to run a complete scan at least weekly as well. Check your balances. You should know how much you're reusing on your credit cards, and you should know when there are not charges that you're familiar with. A good option to make sure that this happens is to have an online account set up with your credit card companies. This way you can easily check your transactions daily or at least weekly to ensure that everything is okay. When you take the time to ensure that your information is protected, you can ensure that your credit and your identity are safe. Taking the time to check out this information takes only minutes, but it can save you from many heartaches and costly expenses down the road. Identity theft protection. What to know and do. When it comes to identity theft protection, it's up to you to get the best results possible. While there are plenty of things that you blame on someone else to do, it's really up to you to ensure that you keep your personal information, especially your finances, in order. To do this, though, there are many things that can help you. In fact, if you get into a routine, it can be easy to make sure that your identity is always safe and secure. What you need first, though, is information. In order to ensure that you're protected, it's essential that you take the time to know how you can be affected by identity theft. For example, do you know how a thief can get your credit card number or information? If not, then you should educate yourself on that. Second, you should know what's available to help you in that protection. For starters, you should ensure that you've identity theft protection available on your credit cards. This is a service that many credit cards offer that will help you to ensure that if your credit gets lost or stolen, that you're not responsible for the charges. The next thing to do is to learn about your credit report. You need to be able to get your credit report and check it for any errors. You should do this at least once per year. If you're really adamant about your credit score and your credit history, you may want to purchase a credit monitoring program that can help you to be notified of new accounts as they appear on your credit report. All in all, it's up to you to make sure that the information that's provided about you is accurate. How did it happen to me? For many people, the fact that their identity has been stolen is something that they just cannot believe. How did this happen to me? The question is something that haunts people. But what they don't know is that there were probably things that they could have done as identity theft protection. Now, that's not to say that everyone that's affected by identity theft can protect it. But many can. To know what you can do to prevent identity theft from happening to you, there are several things that you need to learn about. Here are some of the things that you can do to make sure that it doesn't happen to you. Keep an eye on your credit card balances and make sure that you don't allow anyone that should not have them to get a hold of your credit card numbers and info. They can easily make payments without the credit card in hand with this information. Only use secure websites when it comes to making purchases on the web. A secure website is one that has an S after the HTTP in the browser's address box, the box you would type in website name enter. This is nearly an impossible situation for others to steal from. Never provide your personal information to anyone, including your last name, your address, or your credit card numbers. You should guard your social security number closely. Only purchase from reliable merchants on the web that you know. If you don't know the merchant, you may want to consider using an alternative form of payment. There are services online that allow you to pay through them so that your credit card information or bank account information is not at risk. By doing these things, you can help to ensure that your credit card information is not being used in the wrong way. Identity theft protection is something that you deserve to have. Protecting your own way. When it comes to identity theft protection, it's up to you to make sure that it gets done the way that it needs to be done. You should not count on your credit card companies letting you know that someone is using your credit card. In fact, you could go months without realizing it, and by then it's far too late to have this taken care of. But there are several things that you can do now to ensure that you're going to have the best results when it comes to your identity. Here's a look at the ways that you can have the best identity theft protection. Always monitor your credit card statements for purchases that you did not make. If you lose your credit card, report it as soon as possible to the lender so that it can be cancelled and a new one listed. Review with the representative the charges that are on your card to ensure that no one has used it. Pull your credit report. You can do this for free once per year or pay for it more often. Consider a credit report monitoring program that will help you to know as soon as a new account is opened and when things are changed on your report. Make sure that your credit cards have identity theft protection programs on them to help to safeguard against possible charges that you do not make. Make online purchases carefully. Make sure you're on a secure websites, that you're using your credit card with a merchant that you know and trust, and consider using payment services that allow for your information to be kept from the merchants that you don't know. Never provide your personal and financial information to anyone on the web that is not a legitimate business. Identity theft protection starts with you. You need to monitor it, and you can when you use these services. How to avoid identity theft: keeping your financial records safe. Imagine this scene. You're opening your bills only to find one of your credit card account balances with an overdue 5-digit charge. You know you didn't make that purchase, so you refuse to pay for it. A few months later, you decide to buy a new car, so you submit a loan application to the car dealer. You get a phone call that afternoon with the bad news: "I'm sorry, Ms. Jones, but we are not able to extend credit to you at this time." When you ask why, they tell YMU that your credit report indicated you're in debt way over your ability to pay. Bummer. You've become a victim of identity theft. Now imagine this. You finally order that credit report like you've been meaning to do for years. When you get it, you learn that you own a house you don't know about, and you've credit card balances at 3 different stores you've never even heard of. Someone has stolen your identity to make their life richer. How did the identity theft happen? And what can you do about it? There are many ways an identity thief can get your personal information to build a mountain of debt that creditors expect you to pay. Maybe they got hold of your name, address, and social security number by going through your garbage one night. Or perhaps you gave them the information when their representative contacted you to verify some details on your account. Or maybe they're a computer hacker that figured out how to get your credit card numbers when you made a purchase at the local boutique. They may even have gotten your information by pretending to be you or someone in your family when they contacted your bank or service company. The worst case scenario is when someone uses your social security number and then goes out and commits criminal acts. Ever seen the inside of a police station or jail? You could. There are a multitude of ways to become a victim of identity theft. Identity theft and fraudulent use of personal financial records is a growing problem all over the world. In 2004, the U.S. Federal Trade Commission conducted a study that indicated over 9 million people are victims of identity theft every year. A 2003 study conducted in the United Kingdom suggested that 20% of all consumers had been subject to identity theft. Clearly, in the English-speaking world, identity theft is an ever greater threat to your personal and financial well-being. How can I prevent having my identity stolen? Here are some tips on things you can do or not do to guard your personal financial information. Prevent identity theft and protect your good credit rating. Always take your receipts with you after you've made a purchase. Leaving the receipt at the ATM or gas station is an open invitation for identity thieves. Maintain good files and records of your financial transactions. Know what you've purchased when and from whom. Store your old account statements in a safe place. And be sure to shred any papers with personal information before you throw it away. The FBI recently reported that a third of identity theft victims admitted the thief was a coworker or friend. Be careful not to leave personal information out in the open on your desk or in your home office. And don't ask anyone else to hold your personal papers for you. In this case, most of the identity theft suspects were well aware of their victims' habits and lifestyle. Carefully guard your user IDs and passwords for online accounts. When you create them, don't go for the easy to remember. People who know you may be able to guess simple, straightforward user IDs and passwords. And don't write your passwords down or keep them where someone can get to them. If you store them electronically, make sure the files are protected. Get and keep regular copies of your credit reports and account statements. Use one or all of the three major agencies Experian, TransUnion, or Equifax to get your credit report. Don't depend on less reputable reporting agencies. Opt out of mailing lists whenever you can and ask telemarketers to take your name off their list. By law, they can't call you again for a year. If you've any doubts, check with your bank and credit accounts to find out what they do with your personal information and what you need to do to better protect it. Don't have printed or write your social security number on your checks. Might as well send it up a flag. Some states still use social security numbers and driver's licenses, but they're changing. Check with your DMV to see if you can have your driver's license changed to remove your social security number. Don't keep a written list of your bank or other account numbers where they might be seen by someone else. Keep lists of this type of information under lock and key. Don't respond to and delete any emails that ask for an account number or other personal information. Stop internet and snail mail credit card offers. Install firewall and anti-spyware on your computer for additional protection. If your computer has the feature, register your fingerprint as an additional safety feature. Purchase new checks from the bank, not a discount service. And rather than having your full name printed on the checks, use your initial. Don't carry pins in your wallet or purse, and never give them out over the phone. What if I'm already a victim? If you think someone else is using your identity or personal financial information inappropriately, contact the nearest office of the U.S. Department of Justice. Contact your creditors to alert them to the fraud. Also inform your bank of the activity and secure their agreement to help protect your information. You may want to revisit the names of people authorized to access your personal financial information and limit it to essential parties only. Find out as much as you can about the accounts, purchases, and applications the identity thief has made using your name. Then contact those companies directly and immediately to make sure they close the accounts. And notify law enforcement when they become aware of any additional transactions. Immediately notify the credit reporting agency and creditors if you see suspicious activity or if you find errors like a closed account that shows as open or a paid off balance that appears to be outstanding. You may have to provide documentation to support corrections, and you may have to make the same contact several times to assure the correction is made. But be persistent. Your credit report is a direct reflection of your financial dealings. Creditors and credit report agencies are obligated to report correct information. 15 easy solutions to avoid being a victim of identity theft. Identity theft occurs when a criminal steals personal information from you. It may be your full legal name, your credit card or bank account numbers, your social security or driver's license number, or other personal data that identifies you uniquely. The identity thief uses the information to apply for mortgages, loans, or credit card applications under your name. They may even use the information to access your bank accounts. This modern crime is rampant today, and public concerns about it continue to rise. While perpetrators of identity theft are difficult to catch and prosecute, here are a few things you can Do to protect your personal financial information and avoid becoming a victim to this malicious crime. 1. Don't give your personal information to anyone over the phone. Callers who ask for your birth date or social security or other account numbers over the telephone are likely to be identity thieves looking for an easy mark. 2. Don't send this information to anyone through email or snail mail unless you initiated contact. And know and trust the person or company you're sending the information to. 3. Tear up or shred papers like your mail that have personal information on them before